like sitting in training mode and doing combos and doing setups. I like the technical aspect of the game, so I will find other people's tech, apply it, remix it. But I'm not in the lab. I will never come up with a technique. I will X copy and remix. So I will understand how it works, how it applies, but I am not trying to be in there in the lab doing the homework. I let other people do that. Now that we have Twitter and we have YouTube and everybody wants to show off their tech, I let other people do all the work. I will reap the benefits. And I know that my mindset playing games is offbeat from most people. So I know that I can apply those techniques differently than most people are doing. So I will say I'm a tech monster. I am definitely not a lab monster. You're not going to catch me in training mode. I do all my learning in game, in match versus person.
Hello, and welcome to the Absolute Guard Podcast.
The podcast that chronicles the past and the present of the fighting game community and bring on various perspectives from Arizona. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, YouTube at youtube.com/Spiral Series, and on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under Absolute Guard. To all of you that have been watching and listening, we appreciate you. If you've liked and subscribed, tweeted and retweeted, we welcome any kind of feedback that you have regarding the podcast or any guests that you want to see. This is episode 8, and I'm your host, Benny. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the artist formerly known as Samuji. How's your week been, John?
Pretty good. Yeah, Samuji is a long forgotten name. I ended up changing that because I got tired of introducing myself as Jon to everybody that I met and having to explain the difference between the weeb name and the non-weeb name.
Nice. So why Porta John, though?
Porta John, yep.
Yeah, but why Porta John? Is it just you?
Why Porta John?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was introducing myself as Jon, and I'm like, I might as well use a pun here. I already use that for my offline or like for non-fighting game related names. So.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I wanted something new and exciting. But what's new and exciting with you, Benny?
I mean, this last week, I've just been kind of chilling, really. Just trying to save money. Work on my pilot's license, doing that kind of stuff. So that's been something I'm doing. So
very cool.
Yeah. So today, we're talking to one of the OGs in the scene for AZ, Mr. Roch. Also goes by Roch Kiss. How you doing today, Roch?
I'm doing great. How y'all doing?
Doing great, man.
All right.
I was just like, well, before we get into some of the particulars with you, I just want to say, like, when I think of Roch, like, I usually go to the venues or the gaming zone or whatever early, and I would always know when you come in because, like, you walk in the room and it's like, yo, what's up? And, you know, you're dapping up everybody, your friends, whoever, you know, you say hi to me and my family and my kids. And then the next thing is always, I got next. And you're looking at the setup, trying to find, you know, where the best players are. Like, you're ready to go.
So, yeah, I like that. I mean, I've always looked at playing games as, you know, it's leisure activity, it's fun, it's competitive, but at the end of the day, it's a community. So it's a bunch of people that share the same interests. You might as well make people feel at home, make people feel valued. Let's all have fun while we're beating each other up.
Yep.
You want to talk about someone feeling valued? Like, there would be those odd days where Roch would come into the venue like he normally does, and everybody would do the, oh, is Roch here thing. And he would say, I got next. Where's this guy? And he would just call out a very specific person, and whether it was Nick Going or Akita or Abe or like whoever, it'd be like, I want to play Saber. I want to play him. Yeah. I got next.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh man.
Gotta call him out. Anybody that gives me a whooping, I gotta give it back and then some. I take some else, but I get out my fair share as well.
Fair enough. But yeah, so the whole room tends to know your name, Roch Kiss, but we are kind of curious about where your gamer tag comes from and its origin.
It's actually not a gamer tag. That's like my name. So in middle school, or maybe even going back to daycare, my best friend's name was Mark, and
Okay.
I always used to call him Marcus. And then one day I pissed him off, and he says, "My name is not Marcus, it's Mark. What if I called you Rockus?" And then that just stuck. So it went from like middle school, and then once this is pre-internet, this is before any type of social media. So it used to be like ROCHUS. I just put the us
right?
on Marcus,
Like
and then
Marcus,
I
yeah,
said
okay.
this needs to be more Googleable. Plus, there's apparently people actually named Rockus, so I did Roch Kiss just to make it stand out a little more.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually funny that you mentioned it because, like, I mean, I know you're involved in music and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
I actually heard something recently in terms of like some of these new artists. Like, there's an R&B artist that goes by Blast, but he spells his name BLXST, and I was
yeah,
like, why would you spell it that way? And then somebody brought up, well, it's because of SEO and search engines and stuff like that.
yep,
Because like, if you look up Blast, what are you gonna find? Email blast explosion, stuff like that. You
yeah,
look up
yeah.
BLXST, you're gonna find that dude. So
There we go.
that's an
Yeah, so
interesting
that's
way to
all
put
it
it. Yeah.
was. All it was, just trying to be a little Googleable out there, a little bit, a little
Yeah.
Googleable.
Oh yeah. I mean, I always wondered what the why Rock is so why not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
rock muscles or rock something
Right.
rock
My
I
hugs.
don't
my
have any of those.
personal my personal fan fiction was that it was because he was Rockus Maximus originally.
Yes, that's what Abe said. 3S always calls me Rockus Maximus.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was always just Rockus, and then
Oh
there we
man.
go.
Very
Nice,
cool.
nice. So what about like so we got the origins of your name or your tag, the handle you go
Yeah.
by. What about in terms of like fighting games? Like what did you get started with in terms of fighting games?
I'm gonna date myself with this one. I think my first, so other than Super Nintendo, playing not Super Turbo, but whatever the super version of that with as
Yeah.
kids with my cousin. As far as playing other people that are not in my family, I would say middle of CVS 1 is when I got started. And we used to go to an arcade called Golf and Stuff. So I'm a little teenager, and my friends and I used to, Marcus actually, we used to hustle cats in NFL Blitz, and then we saw
Oh,
CVS 1, and I think this is like my dates might be wrong. It might be like the end of Alpha 2 time. So we saw it, and then I started playing it, and then of course we got beat up, and
yeah.
then Marcus fell off. He didn't play anymore. I say no, I'm going to get this. Like I'm not used to losing, so ever since Golf and Stuff, playing CVS 1 and
CBS
Alpha
one.
2, that's where I came in at.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So with Alpha 2, like were you so like right now Alpha 2 is kind of seeing a resurgence on Fightcade, and I was
Yeah.
curious, like, were you into like all the VIACC stuff? Did you have all your custom combos down for Alpha 2,
This
or is that
is
more like dipping your toes in?
We didn't have internet. Well, like things were not on the internet back then. So I had no idea. This is before I knew the Phoenix scene. So I didn't know Saber. I didn't know Jeff. I didn't know any of these guys. It was this guy will kill you. Although I didn't know his name back then.
I've heard
We
of his
just,
name, yeah.
yeah, that's just the guy that beat me up back then. So we didn't know anything as far as like real combos, real block string. I didn't have a vernacular back then. You just
Yeah.
press buttons. It's the ultimate. If it feels like my turn, is my turn. So
Sure,
that
yeah.
Yeah.
was pretty much how I played back then until CVS 2. So when CVS 2 came out, my girl at the time got me the CVS 2 on Xbox, and then
Oh, with the easy
I was
combos.
at yeah. So I was at ASU, and that's when I played Cigar Bob on whatever their Xbox Live. So Cigar Bob, I might have played, maybe I might have played Jeff, and then first message boards. They said, yeah, you got to come out to some tournaments. So then that's when I started actually learning how to play.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't until your college days that you like actually
Oh
started
yeah,
playing like the actual
yeah,
games.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. And then where were you at originally before you came to ASU?
Tucson, Arizona. So like 2 hours south of
Okay.
Phoenix, maybe a bit less. But yeah, Tucson, Arizona. That's where I first that's where I grew up at, but that's also where the arcade that I played at was, and where I got my dipped my toes into the fighting game experience.
Okay,
Very cool.
cool. So in terms of would you say like competitively? So you started with CVS1 and playing with those guys. That's where you started.
Yeah, and I was so CVS one is like my button mashing days. Like you just as far as like really trying. So my first tournament was CVS two,
Okay.
and then after that beat down, I say, okay, I'm gonna learn this because it's a lot of guys. I think Jeff won it. And then I said, this guy's really good. I'm gonna beat this guy one day, and then that's when I started actually learning, like taking notes and learning all the terms and showing up to casuals. So CVS two is like is me diving in.
Okay. And that's in. Sorry, is that in Tucson or is it in Tempe at this point?
This is
When you're
both
diving in.
actually. So
Okay.
since ASU is a hop, skipping, and jumping away, I had my car and I would come down on the weekends from ASU, say what up to the family, say, and I'm also doing music at the time, so I would meet with all the music scene and do shows if we need to do shows, and then back up to ASU for education.
Sure. Wow, that's crazy. I going back and forth like every. Is it every was it every week or
Well,
pretty
back
regularly? Or?
then, so we're talking about 2002. You could get a bus from Phoenix to Tucson for $12,
Oh
and then
wow.
gas.
Okay.
Yeah, gas was mad cheap. So
Yeah.
if you got any kind of money, then you could travel a lot easier. We didn't have these $4 prices like we do now.
Yep.
$100 Uber rides.
Oh my goodness, yeah. No, I'm not doing none of that.
Nice,
Very
nice.
cool. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead, Benny.
Go ahead, John.
I was curious about we've named Alpha 2, CVS 1, and CVS 2 as your kind of origin. CVS 2 when you first started playing really competitively.
Yeah.
What did you ever get to the point where you won a local or anything in CVS 2, or was that destined for a future game?
You know what? Yes. So I won't. At some point, me and Heat Rebirth were so Tucson. At some point, we were the best in AZ. So I don't know if where that is. This is around Devastation time frame, where Devastation was at. I don't remember the venue, but at that time, I can confidently say that we were the best in AZ at CBS two. As far as winning tournaments, I may have won a couple. I like to at least get top three, but I wouldn't say I was in shape at CBS two until towards the end of its life.
Okay. Okay, very cool. So you would definitely consider yourself top three, or consider the Tucson occupy all top three spots for CBS two?
There was we used to do a lot of Tucson versus Phoenixes, and we had Forward, who's Phoenix now, but he was Tucson back then. So we used to get beat up a lot, but towards the end, we were winning those.
Oh, nice. So in terms of competitively, like you played, like I know you were part of the Street Fighter 4 scene, Street Fighter 5 for a little bit too.
And
what was your favorite game? Oh yeah, Cross Tekken too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because of that crop, I would say Cross was my favorite. Late in the game, Third Strike, even though that's before that generation, Third Strike is a work of art of a game. It's beautiful. So that's up there with CBS 2 as far as my nostalgia pick. But of the next gen, Cross Tekken, it's a good game.
Stuff.
And it got a bad rap. It was fashionable to hate on it, and then they kind of got it sorted out with the last iteration. And then that's my game right there.
Nice. I guess in terms of like competitive or just fighting games in general too, like when I think the other thing that I think of, because they said the first thing I thought of when I think of you is like you when you enter the room, right, and I got next and all this stuff, right.
Yeah.
One of the other things I think about is you don't really have a main. Like when I think of you, I don't think of you in the main character, right? Like you've played various characters in like every game that I've seen you play. Like it's like I don't know if it's a flavor of the week thing or what's the deal with that? Because I've seen you play like in Street Fighter 4. I remember you played DiCaprio because I remember that because I beat you in a tournament playing DiCaprio. But like I'm trying to think, there was so many other characters. Like you come to like a random like 2 weeks later and it's like you're playing somebody else and I'm like, wait, Roch plays this person too?
Well, the way I would look at it is that if someone beats me with a character, I can understand why I'm losing a lot better if I play the character. So I would just pick them up. And then this is also like a lot of the mentality back then. So before social media was like save it for nationals. So no one
Yeah.
was really sharing tech. It was not. We didn't have Twitter, so people would just hoard the strategies. So from that mentality, I say, all right, I'll just learn the character. So I mean, I got the same brain cells you guys have, so might as well just learn the character. So anybody that would give me trouble, I would just pick up the character, and then once I see what kind of trouble I'm having, I know what kind of trouble I can inflict on that person. So that was always my mentality
Oh,
uh, as far as picking characters. I don't like to. I like to. It's a fighting game, so I like to fight. I like to rush down. So I always play characters that enable me to just do what I want to do.
yeah.
Anybody with a DP or a flat kick or somebody where I can say, forget your move. I'm doing what I'm doing. You got to deal with that.
Nice, nice. So I guess so. Going back, like, so what were the characters that you played in like Alpha 2? Like, what
Alpha 2, I would play again, so I'm not knowing what I'm doing, so I just pick Ken. So
Okay.
play Ken and do things. Ken, Ryu, anybody. This is before I even knew how to really work a joystick. So
Yeah.
anybody I could get the moves out. I was playing in Alpha 2.
Oh, real quick
Alpha
before
3, I played.
did
Yeah.
Marcus play Ryu? I was trying to prove
Yes,
a
we
theory.
we well,
Ah,
whoever
okay.
picked, whoever picked one, we picked the other one.
Yeah, yeah.
I was never a Ryu kind of guy. I always
Yep.
like the offbeat. So I say, give me Ken. I'll
Yep.
pick Ken. He's normal, but he's off the beaten path, and he's got a DP. Let's do it.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
I
fighting
was always,
gamers, they always come in pairs. Like you always pick
yes,
up a new fighting game with a friend, and then one
yep,
person picks Ryu, one person picks Ken. It's always
that's
the
the way to
the
do
more
it.
outgoing and stylish person that goes out for Ken, and the other person
There
that
we
wants to play
go.
basics plays Ryu.
There we
Yeah.
go. That was me. I was the outlandish, the off the beaten path guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely a way I would put that. So in terms of like CVS1, like, so you started playing that by yourself, and then you got involved in the scene or like competitively with other players. So who did you play initially, and then how did that change like when you started playing competitive?
So a better game to answer that question would be CVS2 because CVS1
Okay.
I was still kind of button
Kind of rough.
mashing, not really knowing what I was doing. And then at the end of CVS1 is where I first started like traveling. So I found out like Nakaru was broken, and I was like, how is that possible? So the question for that would be CVS2. I started out playing at the end of the game. I played the whole cast, but I liked Blanca, who just so happened to be top tier. I liked Chang. I played Morgan before people knew all the stuff with Morgan, so that was my team. And then as the game progressed, so this is in the middle of me learning how to play is when like the internet's about and people find out about role canceling. So once everybody knew about role canceling, for those that don't know, in the first 4 frames of your special move, you could cancel it from a role, and you get the invincible properties of your role applied to that special move.
Right.
So you could have an invincible fireball, you could have an invincible command grab. Once I saw people doing that, I say, I am not going to learn how to do that. I just
Oh.
picked K Groove because I was not into doing training mode. Like I'm not a training mode warrior. I learn in game. So I play in game. I pick up a new character in game just because I don't have anybody got time for that. So I picked up K Groove, and then that was it. So I said, yeah, this is it because I'm not going to learn all this other business. So I might as well get a 35% damage boost and hurt people's feelings.
So let me get this straight. When you get beat by another character, you go and try to take point on learning the character that just beat you.
Yeah.
But when a universal mechanic comes out that changes the game fundamentally, you're like, no, that's too much. I'm gonna go do.
I tried it. Here's what happened is I tried it. So I tried role canceling. I say I gave it a good week, and I say I was playing charge characters. I would always get random rolls or random not what I want, and I say I'm not trying to training mode warrior a technique to just play. And then if my tournament life's on the line and I want to count on roll canceling and I get a roll, I would be highly upset. So it was a lot easier for me to just pick up just defense, and it allowed me to get in people's head a lot easier because as ubiquitous as roll canceling was and as overpowered as it was, you could still beat it. Like you can throw roll cancels on startup.
Okay.
So it wasn't like the end all be all. And once I tried K Groove, I say I can make this work. I can apply my game plan. I can still learn characters, but I'm not going to have to, learn a bunch of muscle memory. I was not trying to lab monster it up that much on the technique side of the game. So that's where I just made the choice to just pick up K Groove and get my damage boost.
If I could dig a little bit deeper on K Groove,
Yeah.
you know, Benny and I are 09ers, and we come from the era, the new era of fighting games where comeback factors are in every game, right? There's an Ultra, there's an X Factor, there's a Pandora, for lack of a better one, V Trigger, stuff like that. K Groove, from my understanding, is one of the first instances of a big comeback factor in the older games, and I was curious if how did people react to K Groove back then, or your K Groove specifically?
It was America thought it was scrubby, just because you get beat up, then you get a damage boost. I think it was 35%. You get a big damage boost, and then your supers do more damage. So it's like you're incentivized to get beat up. But this is before, so I wasn't traveling for tournaments, but my first Evo was for a CVS2. Ino is a famous Japanese player, played K Groove, Kami, Blanca, Sagat, which is like a super busted team. It's just top tier. I'm trying to win. Yep. And he would just defend everything. So he actually applied the system mechanic to his competitive play. And there's no way you could call that scrubby. But a lot of times the mentality that I at least picked up on was a lot of people thought it was scrubby. And I can understand why. you get beat up and then you press some buttons. That was a game where, normals, you needed good footsies. So if you're playing K Groove Sagat and you get beat up, you land a couple fierces, you're right back in the game. So yeah, I mean, I ran with it, but the initial idea was that it was scrubby. But once we saw the artistic style of Japanese gameplay, those notions went out the window.
Artistic style.
That's my goodness. Yeah, those guys play beautiful. It was, you can't even you couldn't even hate on it.
Can you nerd out for us for a brief second and give us an example of something that you found beautiful that the Japanese did?
So CVS2, Blanca's top tier. Well, universal strategy people use is you knock someone down, you do a cross-up medium kick, and you mash electricity. So you take 30% of their guard bar. It's just an annoying string to deal with. You can't roll out of it on wake up. They can punish your roll. So it's kind of like you got to hold this cross up into electricity. So the Japanese were the first people to just defend all of it. So you're mashing electricity, trying to get some guard bar, and you're giving him a whole bunch of life. So just defense, I think it was a 6-frame window. You get a 6-frame window. If you press back or down back, you'll turn blue, block the attack. You get a little bit of life bar, and you fill up your K Groove gauge. So these guys were just defending everything, and it was like, man, I got to learn how to just defend everything so I want life back too. I like life. So these guys were just defending everything and just really altering. You didn't want to approach them. You didn't want to walk around and play footsies and press fierce, which is your longest button. They'll just defend it and they'll get some life back. So that was.
It changes the mental game completely, I think.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. You get your strategy, like I'm gonna do this block string, and they just defend the whole thing, and you say, I don't want to do that block string anymore. I want to do a different block string now.
Yeah, I was just looking it up real quick, and it's just like, just defend has 5 major benefits. Like you said, you earn super beater, you regain a very small amount of life back. You will not get pushed back at all as you would normally. So you get like the push block. Then your block stun is shorter than normal, and then you will not take block damage. That's a lot.
Yeah, holy crap! It is. It was a good. It's a great mechanic. It was the counter to parry from the third strike system. So I think they tweaked. SNK tweaked it enough. It's originally from Garo Market of Wolves, so I think they tweaked it enough to differentiate it from parry. But in the grand scheme of CVS2, it was definitely a lot better than parry. So it was a legitimate strategy. I think nowadays one of the top players, a lot of the top players are K Groove players. So they thought, it wouldn't work at the highest level. It's working at the highest level in 2022. So
I think another like characteristic that I saw for K Groove is that it's very burst damage heavy. Like you
yeah,
said, like you'll hit 4 fierces with Sagat and suddenly be back in the game, right? Or 3, right?
absolutely. Yeah. So it's like you get beat up, so you have to take not. I mean, if you just defend everything, you build up that bar. So you change people's offensive patterns, and then that boost. Some players would like to, land the super as soon as possible. Other people say, I don't know what the timer was. I think it might have been 20 seconds or something like that, where you're doing higher damage. They say, I want to press this advantage that I have right now. So you're going to hold these block strings. You're going to eat these normals as much as possible.
Sure.
And it changed people's offensive patterns, having to deal with just defense.
If we could keep on the beauty topic briefly, you mentioned Third Strike as one of your favorite games, and that game was art as well.
Oh my goodness!
We haven't talked a ton about Third Strike, but I'd love to hear about your opinions on the game.
I think it grew on me. So I think most of America did not like Third Strike when it came out. So it kind of died. And then once Japan started coming over, we didn't know what custom combos, not custom combos, Ganesian combos. So we didn't know what those looked like at the time. And then it was America played it kind of like a footsies game, like regular Street Fighter, because our beasts at the time were, Mike Watson, John Choi, Alex Valle, and those guys were very footsie heavy players. That Third Strike it's footsies, but it's a different type of footsies because the whole game is centered around parrying, and it adds a layer that a lot of fighting game players don't necessarily like. If I call out your move, I negate all of your hit stun, all of your block stun, I gain advantage, and it really turns the tide of offense. So I don't think America understood the beauty of Third Strike until we saw stuff that the Japanese players were doing. And then afterwards, it was, the game is artistically beautiful, but gameplay wise, it's beautiful as well. A lot of characters are viable strictly because of the system mechanics. So, that's kind of, I think, what you want in a game, for people to be able to play it. And at the highest level, the top tier characters don't necessarily win all the time. If you get a good parry, you're going to hold that counter.
So like the universal mechanics basically acting as an equalizer between the top tiers and the rest of the cast, right?
Exactly. So a lot of, I'd say 85% of that cast is playable in tournament at the highest level. And if you don't believe me, just check out Cooperation Cup. They mix up those teams, and it's not always the Chun Yun Ken teams that win. Sometimes it is. You're not going to act like top tiers aren't top. But if you're good at Third Strike, you will win at Third Strike. So the better Third Strike player, meaning that not necessarily a character specialist or not necessarily anything like that. If you have a better understanding of people's tendencies, the offensive nature of Third Strike, then you will win at Third Strike, which is why you can play, as long as you know somebody's bread and butter combo and you know the tendency of people to press buttons on wake up, you can exploit those tendencies and win at the game.
Okay. That makes complete sense, and it's very very it seems like it gets you closer to playing the person as opposed to playing the matchup, right?
Yes. And the reason I like that is that my gameplay is playing the person. So I'm going to be in your face. I'm going to be in your face. How do you react to the pressure? And once I say, okay, this guy does not like this pressure, then I can start doing things to exploit their tendencies to want to run away or want to mash on wake up. So that game makes it so that you can exploit people's tendencies to the fullest degree.
That's pretty much like why I've been terrible at Third Strike. Like I it's one of those things, like I never realized like the kind of patterns and the kind of mindset I have until I play somebody that like reads me like a book, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna low forward you here. Like, no, you're not. I'm gonna parry this and you're gonna eat this. And I'm like, well, I don't want to low forward anymore.
The first like mind game that got to me, so Street Fighter 4, there was Ken had a car throw. A lot of characters had car throws, so you can cancel one normal into a throw to give you more distance. And so waking up in Street Fighter 4 was scary. It's like, what is this guy going to do? Is he going to frame trap me? Is he going to do this? So Momochi, his counter to all of that nonsense is, I'm going to wake up low forward.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. When I saw it, I go, why is this hitting? This makes absolutely no sense. If he got frame trapped, he got hit. But what he's saying is, I know you're going to stand outside of my throw range. I know you're going to be standing because you want this throw. You're going to cancel a normal into throw. So while you're waiting on me to do things, I'm going to hit this low forward. And then my mind exploded. I said, this is amazing. This is amazing gameplay right here.
Yeah, because it's often that it's misconstrued as random. I think a lot of times when you see
Absolutely
like an
not.
option that is completely foreign or not what you would expect in that scenario, and in reality, it's an expression of creativity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's crazy that you're talking, like, you drop a bunch of these technical terms like car throws and staying out of throw range and frame trapping and whatnot. And you mentioned that you're not a tech monster per se. You're not a lab monster. Or are you a tech monster, but just you stay away from the lab?
I am a tech monster. Yeah, so I don't like sitting in training mode and doing combos and doing setups. I like the technical aspect of the game, so I will find other people's tech, apply it, remix it, but I'm not in the lab. I will never come up with a technique. I will X copy and remix, so I will understand how it works, how it applies, but I am not trying to be in there in the lab doing the homework. I let other people do that. Now that we have Twitter and we have YouTube and everybody wants to show off their tech, I let other people do all the work. I will reap the benefits. And I know that my mindset playing games is offbeat from most people. So I know that I can apply those techniques differently than most people are doing. So I will say I'm a tech monster. I am definitely not a lab monster. You're not going to catch me in training mode. I do all my learning in game, in match versus a person.
Yeah, I respect that. I'm kind of the same way. I've never, I mean, it probably reflects in my execution and in my gameplay too, but I'm like, I'm not one to kind of sit in the training mode and do some things. I'll do it a couple of times and be like, can I hit it? And it's like, all right, I did it. It's just like, so I know I'm capable of it. I'm just not going to sit there and repeat it until I get it down. And like, you talk about, people being tech monsters or like, people that lab that kind of stuff. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily translate to you being good at a game either. Like there's plenty of people that discover crazy tech and they're not the best players, but it's just like their mind is in that mode where like, well, if this works, then this could work, or this should work. And, they'll make the videos and they'll figure stuff out and they'll be like, hey guys, look at what I found. But like, they're not the best players in the world. They're just, their mind works completely differently. And, finding that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is that a lab monster, and I'm not projecting, I'm guessing to what the brain of a lab monster would say, is that there's a finite amount of options that people have. So I'm going to make something that covers majority of the options. But what lab monsters don't account for is the randomness. Like if someone just says, I'm going to DP on your wake up, like, what do you do about that? And so you can completely throw off the finite option mind frame by just doing something completely random. And once you get someone tilted and they say, why is this person doing these random DPs? You throw them off, you win a 2 out of 3 set. All you need is one. A lot of these games are 2-touch games nowadays. So if you mess somebody's mindset up for a good 15 seconds, you can take a 2 out of 3 set.
Yeah, that makes me laugh just because like that's me. Like I'm the person that does the random stuff. It's just like, okay, what are you gonna do? I'll wake up, and I'm like, wake up Ochio, and you're like, why would you wake up command grab? And I was just like, because you weren't expecting it.
Yep,
you know what I mean.
That is
so that's the.
You got to marry the two. You got to marry the random nature, how is this person going to react to this, with the shutting down people's options, putting somebody in a 50-50 scenario or a scenario where they only have limited access to their resources.
It's like thinking about what the payoff is for that gamble, right?
Yeah.
You're gambling smartly and you're saying, all right, well, I'm gonna wake up command grab, but this command grab is a Makoto command grab, and I'm gonna take half your health for it. So the risk is worth it, right?
It's you examine the risk reward, and then you put, where am I at? It's the first game, first set. I don't know this guy. What is this guy doing? How does he react if I just DP on his wake up? Like, I won't eat that much because he doesn't have that many resources. But if this thing hits he's going to say, who is this guy? What is this guy doing? What am I doing? Why am I here? So if you can put someone in an existential crisis with one random action, I'd say that risk reward is worth it. And then you can play solid the rest of the game and you have that mental edge on somebody.
Yep, that's for that whole term, like questioning your life. Like we talk about
Yeah.
it all the time when you
I've
play
been there.
fighting games. Yeah, like you get hit by something and you're just like, why did I get hit by that? Why is this
Yes.
happening right now?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And it is, it'll change you think you have an understanding because you play in your locals and you think you've downloaded everybody at your locals. And then you meet some guy from Ohio that's, never played you before. It does something random. And now you're questioning your life decisions leading up to where you're at.
Yeah. Okay. This is a tough question to ask, but I struggle with this regularly where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something random and I'm going to condition them to expect random and scare them into thinking that I'm like into letting me out of pressure or something. Like I'll wake up with a button or something. Right. And so where I struggle with as a player is recognizing when it works, recognizing like, okay, they got hit by that DP. Are they actually scared now? Or do I need to hit them with another one to make sure,
Yeah. So, big shout out to Rick Dog. Rick Dog says if you ever get hit by wake up DP, you can wake up DP them back immediately. 80% of the time, it works all the time. But it's true. You need to like the way I approach it is that I will do the random thing and then I will play solid. So I won't open myself up to an immediate wake up reversal. I'll play the way you're supposed to play, the way, all smart people agree on playing temporarily until I see something that gives me a bit more information that I can exploit. So before the random option has made itself available, I've seen how they react to footsies. I've seen if they're whiff punishing me. If I put out a bad normal and I get punished for it, I say, okay, this guy's at least got some reaction time and he knows what normals to use. So I might apply my randomness differently and I might glean different information from successful randomness. But I think most of the time, if you get away with the random thing, it's probably a better idea to play defensive / solid. That'll get you better results against most people. But if you've got some information on somebody or if you've got a history of playing matches with them, you can apply that match history in that scenario. But I think if it's, Joe Blow from BFE, then it's the better idea to play with respect after being disrespectful.
Okay, I get it. So basically, rather than trying to get a read and then writing it home, you just take your gamble very small here and there, and then don't let that set the tone of the match. You're not trying to make a statement; you're just trying to win, right?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, that's my problem. I'm playing the game I'm in shape right now is King of Fighters 15. Okay. That is my my problem right now is that I can get the first few guesses that would make you think I'm about to steamroll this guy, but in pressing, if you double down, they're going to get you once. And that momentum shift can spell, the end of a character, the end of a set. So I need to practice what I preach, but I know what I'm preaching is accurate.
That's fair. The results speak for themselves, right? You've seen it work in action.
Yeah. So I need to work on, pumping the brakes a little bit. You get 2-3 guesses right. Like, hey, let's ride this lead out and lame it out. So, but I like to rush down. I like to run forward. I like to press buttons. So that gets the better of me on occasion.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I didn't think that our conversation was going to lead into this, but because it was something that I was actually thinking of as like a podcast topic was like adjusting to different kind of play styles or randomness and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I mean, to toot my own horn a little bit, like my prime example is like me playing Mocha Latte because like what you were talking about in terms of like, you play footsies and you see a guy react and like do things to you that nobody's ever done before, right? Like I throw out a normal and like he's going full combo. Like nobody's ever done that to that dude before.
He does that.
Yeah, and it was just like he's a very scientific, kind of by the books kind of player, right? Like very solid. One of the best players that I've seen, and like, but like the comparison I was thinking of was like me and Mr. SNK Nico, right? Like, I don't think anybody in our scene would argue that that I'm a better player than Nico, right? In terms of Honda in Street Fighter 4. Like he was consistently placing what's the joke? Fourth place, right? Fourth place
Yeah,
and above.
Mr. Fourth
Mr.
place. Shout
Fourth
outs
place,
to
right?
Nico.
And like, I
Yeah.
get an occasional top 8. I'd have my moments here and there. But when it came to like Mocha Latte, like Nico couldn't beat him. But I
Yeah.
beat him, I beat him in a Ranbat one time. I beat him. I was the only person to beat him in B League. And
Yeah.
everybody was like, how the hell are you beating this guy? And part of it was like you said, like I would learn things like, playing him so much, I would learn like he could punish everything I do. His like he had every advantage over me, right? His footsies were
Yeah.
better, his punishes was better, his execution was better. Like he knew everything. So for me, I had to like throw everything out the window. Like I'm just like,
Yeah.
what do I have? And I was like, I have randomness, and like
There we
I'm
go.
gonna do shit. I'm
Shout
gonna
outs
do
to
shit
randomness.
that like he doesn't know what to do. That's where the wake up Ochio example came from. Like he'd be pressing
Yeah.
me, and I'm like, nah, bro. Like here, eat this, and then like all of a sudden his whole mindset changes, and I'm
It's like,
like,
wait, does he know something that I don't know?
yeah.
And
And
then
it was like, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say one thing that Mocha. So Mocha's super solid, and one of my favorite players to watch. And if we ever like at the time, I would put him up. I would put money up him versus anybody in the nation, just because for solid play, my man is super solid.
Yeah.
But his reactions get the better of him sometime, and
Mhm.
players that have insane reactions, that is also a data point that you can exploit.
Yep.
So if you say, all right, if I'm going to jump, I typically play characters that can alter their trajectory in the air. So if I know that you're super anti-airman number one, I'll throw out a obvious jump, and if I change my trajectory or do something, I played Ibuki versus Mocha a lot. If I throw out an air EX kunai, at just randomly, he might do a anti-air medium kick, but eat the EX kunai, and if I only need that, whatever 100 damage that thing threw out, I'll take it. I'll take it. But I know that he'll react. He'll do the smart man reaction 90% of the time, and if that reaction requires quick thinking on his part, that's a data point that I can exploit.
Yeah,
it's the point where like if you play optimally all the time, then you're predictable as well as optimal.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. And the question is whether you're in a game where you can exploit that optimal activity or not. And Street Fighter 4 was definitely a game where you can exploit people's reactions, their optimalness. So that was that had a lot of Oki. You put people in one change in momentum puts people in 50-50 scenarios that can alter the trajectory of a set. So all you need is that one opening that can change the tide of a game.
Yeah. That's, I don't know. That was the prime example when you were talking about just in terms of like people being solid. Like that's the dude that I think of is like you said.
He's
like,
super solid.
That's high praise, man, to put him against anybody in the nation. But like you said,
he was. Absolutely, he would do things. I go, what is this man on right now? Is he
like he really good reactions?
Performance enhancing drugs going on here, but the reactions were super solid, and just he understood the game. He says, I know what range you're at. I know what buttons you want to hit. I know what buttons I want to hit your buttons. So it shuts a lot of people down. But I would if we were traveling and someone says, oh, who wants money match? I say, Mocha, go take this guy's money real quick. I'm gonna put some money on you.
So in the interest, I agree with Benny here in that I had no idea we were gonna go down into like fighting game philosophy or how to play Street Fighter or how to read your opponent and stuff. Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant topic for another time for sure.
Absolutely.
I think like Roch, if you could come back, I'd love to just pick your brain about when to press and when not to. Basically,
there we go. Yeah.
But
and it's good to get people's different, bounce ideas off each other. So let's do it.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like everyone to the audience to listen to in this one is just before we move to the next topic in general, I do want to get into your background as a DJ, Roch, and I think it interweaves with your play style and the games you play and the characters you pick. Like even everything that you set up till now, you could probably trace that back to your music style, like how it's performative, how it's beautiful, how it's art. And I was curious about like where do you see the ties, the connections between your fighting career and your music career?
Like you mentioned, it is art, and I always looked at fighting games and the act of playing fighting games with people as art as well. You put some constraints, you put people in a game, you see how people react, people express their personality types. And I definitely, my play style as a DJ, you look at 10,000 songs and you're like, which one do I want to play?
Yeah.
I'll pick one out at random, or I like this one, or I like that one. So that free form nature, I think it goes into my fighting game style as well. So
yeah, that echoes in the character choices you have, right? Benny mentioned earlier, yeah, you don't play one single character, you play a bunch of different ones, right?
And it's and they all the moves that characters have allow them to be expressed in different ways. So where somebody might have, a tendency to have good anti-air. So I say, okay, I need a good ground character. So there are some characters that are good on the ground, but all of those things factor into my choice to pick a character and how I play the character.
Okay. So it's kind of like thinking of it as greater than the sum of its parts, right? Basically, like looking at all the different angles, but then ultimately seeing how they coalesce to each other, kind of like a song.
Yeah, absolutely. Like writing a song, like I'd get my rap on every now and again, but it's writing a song, it's picking an idea out of thin air, it's extrapolating on that idea, it's making that idea palatable to the greatest amount of people, and it's expressing yourself. So to bring it back to fighting games, like right now, King of Fighters, I'm playing a character, Ryo. Most people would argue Ryo's tool set is lacking, but what he does have is he has a parry and he's got a DP. So if I can make those things work to my advantage and I can exploit people's lack of knowledge on the character, then that gives me a way to express myself and find that victory where I need to find it.
Nice. Where are you at in KOF right now? Are you among the top echelon in Arizona? Or are you still getting your feet wet in the game? Or
I can't say where I'm at in Arizona. I'm an online warrior right now, and I'm getting to the point where I'm winning much more than I'm losing. So in a tournament, of course, I got to say I'm going to win. No one's going to beat me. But I have, I haven't been there. Playing with. I know Juicebox plays a lot of KOF. Marvin plays a lot of KOF. We play online. I have yet to play offline in an event. So I'm fully online, but I'm deep in these streets. So come see me in King of Fighters.
Nice. So, I mean, we talked, like I said, when it comes to you, the first thing I was talking about was, I think of, you introducing yourself, when you enter the room, right? You're there. The second thing I thought of was like, your character selection, like you don't have a main, like you're kind of all over the place, free form, like you said. And then the third thing that I think about when I think of you is the hitbox. And I say that because when it came to our scene, I'm pretty sure you were the very first one I ever saw walk into the venue with a hitbox. And, it was, it's kind of not really jarring, but it was more like, oh, what's this? Or why is he using this? So, I guess I want to kind of, I mean, that's a big topic of debate right now too, in terms of like, is the hitbox cheating, that kind of thing. But what was your reasoning for kind of adopting that and, bringing that into your game?
This was like 2013, I think, when you started Hitbox, right? 2013.
Yeah. Whenever the video dropped, I was sold immediately. So I made one. I cut one out of wood. I got on the SRK forum. Someone was saying I had an old
PCB
WWE stick. I took the faceplate off and bought a custom metal hitbox plate. So I was sold. Once they dropped the video and they say, the travel time for a button is shorter than the travel time for a joystick, I say, you are absolutely right. So they demoed all of the techniques. Yes, it's cheating, but hey, it's legal. So let's get it.
Well, we'll delve into that a little bit. So would you say like your initial thought, like for the adoption, was because like you saw an advantage in it, in using it?
Oh yeah. It's I'm not an execution high execution player. I'll do a lower execution combo if I know it's going to hit. Prime example, when I did play Ibuki in Street Fighter 4, I wasn't doing the loops. I was just knocking you down and getting a 50-50. So I thought that the keyboard, like I play piano and I type decently fast. I say, all right, Hitbox at least allows me to use those strengths. So maybe I can get an execution advantage. But again, just seeing they demo the techniques, how to do a fireball, how to do a 3-frame DP, all of that. I say, you can take my money. I threw money at my computer, and I'm a great proponent for Hitbox. I support it.
And so when you say they put the video out, who was they in the scenario?
Oh, Hitbox Arcade. So
Hitbox
the
Arcade?
Huffer brothers were, to my knowledge, the first one doing the all button controller, and they had a demo that they showed on YouTube saying this is our proof of concept, and this is why you should consider this apparatus. And I, checked my pockets and threw money at my screen, and nothing happened. So I ended up having to build one before it dropped. I was so impatient. I built one. So I built one, and I bought a custom faceplate for another arcade stick. So I was sold. They gave their bullet points. Here's why. I said, take my money, take it.
Yeah. The point I really want to hammer home here is that we, in the modern fighting game community, Hitbox is significantly higher on market share now than it was back then. Like, can you give me an idea of like how many people were using Hitbox in your local scene or wherever?
Zero, none. So I got it, and then I was the first one to have it. There may have been, one or two new guys that came out with it, but I'm from the old school. Like, people played on joysticks. We were anti-pad when people started playing on pad. And I may have been anti-pad. I might have been like, hey, man, why are you over here with this Dreamcast pad when people playing Marvel 2 on a Dreamcast pad? I was like, nah, son, get a joystick. But yeah, so the whatever generation was most predominant at the time was against the new apparatuses for is it apparatuses or apparati, whatever apparatuses for the time. They didn't want to adjust to new things. So once I saw the technical advantage for Hitbox, I say, I had to change my tune a little bit. I said, this is obviously better. It's not a matter of preference. It is objectively better. So, I'm not going to go to, Saber and say, throw away, 25 plus years of joystick experience and get this Hitbox. But if someone new is coming in and wanting to be competitive and wanting to spend some money on a joystick, I say, hey, why don't you consider a Hitbox? Is better.
Yeah, actually,
it's better.
Yeah, you talk about building one. I built one myself. I used some like box from like Michaels or something. And I put buttons and I took like a 360 PCB and I like just Jimmy rigged it all together and I was like messing around with it. I thought of kind of going back to it, but I guess for me personally, like, how long did it take you to acclimate yourself? Because I remember you coming in and then it was just like, I wouldn't say that there was a huge drop off for you personally. I mean, I don't know if that's the testament to you or just your play style. Like you said, like you're not heavy execution. Maybe you were going for more simple things than something more elaborate. So how long would you say it took you to kind of acclimate yourself?
I'd say so. You can play people casually on the first day. It at least for me. So I had done a lot of first person shooters. So the concept of jumping with a space bar translated to jumping with your thumb. So I'd say within the first 2 weeks, I didn't go to any tournaments with it until I'd say my third week. And then within a month and some change, I was doing things that I could not do on stick. So super jump cancels, getting anti-airing. My reaction, I don't have the best reactions. I'll throw out a DP, but I'm not Mr. Anti-air over here. But it made it a lot easier to do those things that require quick reactions and some quick button presses. So month and some change, I was surpassing things I could do on stick, with the exception of a few games. So while Hitbox is better, it's not better for every game. But games like Street Fighter 4, games with shortcuts, leniency on inputs, Hitbox is better.
Yeah, that's something that I talked with Saber, with Scott about, and I think that's something he said regarding you in particular. Like, you don't think you don't use it for third strike at all. Is that right?
No, yeah. So if I play, that's Third Strike is one game where I play one character. I just play Akuma. I mean, I can play the whole cast, but if it's money on the line, I'm playing Akuma. And the input leniency or the lack of shortcuts, I won't say the lack of shortcuts, the lack of the same shortcuts that are available in Street Fighter 4 makes it so that it's not necessarily an advantage to play on Hitbox. Now, if I were to play Ken, that has a different, he's just trying to low forward you, hit confirm, do into super. There's a big advantage playing there. But me doing, DP cancel into super, and you can't end in down forward. You got to go all the way to forward. It's just a lot of things that don't necessarily translate well to, spazzing out and needing to get out DP super as quick as possible. Oh, you missed down forward. Oh, you lose the game. So stick for third strike and stick for a couple games. A lot of the ArcSys games are not hitbox friendly because they're not lenient on half circles. So if the game allows it, hitbox is better. If the game doesn't allow it, play on joystick, play on pad, play on whatever.
I can see that. And it's fun. Yeah, you mentioned like your experience with piano, and I was kind of wondering like if there was some kind of music tie-in with that, because you said being a DJ too, like I know some DJs, they have the what do you call them, like the MIDI boards, or the
the MIDI fighters,
those kind of things.
Drum machines, So I mean, as it helps out, it definitely translates. So I can pick up, basic. I'm not execution monster over here, but most combos I can pick up pretty quickly. I can watch somebody do something and I can replicate it relatively easy. So I do my training in game, and I would attribute my ability to do that to piano. I do play the little drum pads, so all that dexterity definitely translates over to fighting game techniques as well.
So
I think I'm gonna have to give it a try too. I just wanted to ask one question just from the chat for both of you, since you guys are both using Hitbox. What do you guys use to jump with? Is it your left or your right thumb?
Rock, you want to go first?
I'll let John go first.
Sorry.
I want to hear his answer.
Yeah, I use the right thumb. It'll vary depending on the specific sequence, but most of the time it's the right thumb. That actually presents some problems too, because if you want to do an air throw, and your throw is light kick and light punch, then you have to move your thumb really quickly to go from the jump button to the throw. So I actually map a 1-button throw on top of that, and I go jump with right thumb and then use my pinky to do another 1-button throw, to jump air throw in the air. So a little bit more long-winded, but giving Rock time to think of his answer.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know my answer. I hear you're the more intuitive and thinking player than I am. But I do. It depends on the technique. So for air throw, it's mostly right thumb, and I'll end up throwing with my index and middle finger. So I don't even throw with my thumb.
Okay.
If I'm doing air throws.
Absolutely.
And then some tiger knee motions. So if I need some immediately off the ground, then I can hit my directional input and the jump with the left hand. So it depends on the technique. Most of the time, it'll be right thumb. And that actually came back to, so for King of Fighters, I don't know if that's a hitbox friendly game. I do have, execution issues on it. And so while I did play stick, I found myself trying to jump with my thumb on occasion on stick. And I said, it's not how this works. So I'd say most of the time it's a right thumb jump.
I do that too, where I go back to stick just to try something new, and I hit light kick over and over again because that's where my thumb is. Dude, that's the worst. When you want to jump at someone, your light kick comes out, you look like you just look like an idiot kicking the air from jump range.
Yeah, what's this guy doing? Just kicking anti-air light kick.
So I have a slew of questions as one Hitbox user to another, and there's actually several people in our stream chat right now that are also asking just general. They're all Hitbox users, and they're asking general questions. So if I could go a little bit deeper, of the motions, which are the hardest ones to do on Hitbox?
They're all easy. The hardest is strict half circles. So
half circles,
anything. So King of Fighters, you don't need a half circle. You can just hit right down left or left down right. A lot of the arcs is Guilty Gear. You need a strict half circle. And when I played Blaze Blue, you need a strict half circle. So if you need to quickly spam a quick half circle, I'm liable to miss that. And all the characters I play in that game, I play Eno in Guilty Gear, and I played Hakumen in Blaze Blue. So they need strict half circles. So I do miss on occasion. But other than that, not too many hard motions. So a strict half circle would be the answer, the long-winded answer to your question.
Okay. How do you do your DPs? Like what kind of shortcut do you do, or is it, if at all?
Yeah, there's infinity ways that I
Yeah.
do DPs. So for Street Fighter 5,
Hmm.
you can do if you're facing right, you can do right, down, and up. So I will plink right to down and then do up and with my right hand and whatever punch button I'm DPing with. So that will give me that's a very quick one. I
Yep.
can anti-air very quickly. In King of Fighters, I do real DP, so forward, down, down, forward. Unless I know I'm going to cancel into something, then I'll do Shinku Hadoken. So 2 quarter circles forward will give me a
Ah,
DP as well.
during
And then my
during the
character,
combo, during the hit stop
yeah,
of the
yeah.
combo, right? Okay.
And so I play Rio. So Rio doesn't have a 2 quarter circle forward motion, so there's nothing overlapping. So I'll just get
Uh,
DP, and then that allows me to cancel it easily into his super. So it depends.
Sure.
It depends on what's going on. But all the shortcuts, I practice all of them, and I've found situations for all of them. In Cross Tekken, you could hold down and mash down forward. So you could
Yep.
do down forward, you could do down, forward, down, down, forward, and that'll give you DP. So I could just, while people are doing block strings, before I had my official hitbox, I had a cheat box. So
Oh.
left and right was always back. So I could hold down, back, and then mash
Oh. Okay.
down, forward, and so I got my reversals whenever I need them. And if I was wrong, then I'm blocking.
Okay. So just this is a little selfish, but
Yeah,
in Cross Tekken in particular, one thing I've noticed. So right now I'm learning Haorong, and his DP is okay. It's not. It's good, and it's got invulnerability, but I find that it trades often because I do it too early, right?
yeah,
And so the answer is to do a crouching DP instead. And you do it later, and then you get more invulnerability and stuff like that.
yeah.
But how do you? How would Rock do that motion, right? Like if you're standing in the neutral and someone jumps at you, you want to anti-air, but you want to do a crouching anti-air.
Yeah. So if I'm fast on the jump, I will whiff a light kick and then DP out of the light kick. If I'm not fast on the jump, if I'm not fast reacting on the jump,
Yeah.
I may go for another anti-air. So I played Yoshimitsu in Cross, and he has the same problem. So his DP you want to do really late.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I might not DP if I know it's gonna if it's not gonna come out because I play Abe a lot in Cross Tekken and he plays Nina. Nina has a very shallow jump and she has
Right.
a very low reaching
Jump
fierce
fierce. Yep.
jump fierce. So if I'm wrong, I'm gonna eat 40%. If I'm right, Yoshi gets anti-air, maybe 250 damage. So I'll examine the situation. If I'm quick reacting on his jump, then I'll whiff a light kick and then do a DP so I get super late. Um, Also, since you can do walk forward, so I think Cross Tekken lets you do forward, down, forward, forward as a DP. So I might walk and
Oh
then
yeah.
mash on crouch.
Okay.
So if I think he's going to jump him and I want to do it preemptively while I'm wiggling back and forth in footsies, I'll walk forward and then mash down a bunch. And then if I see that jump, then I can just let go of down and hit my punch button to get my DP, or in your case, your kick. So I like to mask a lot of the buffering of the DP motion in with me wiggling around and doing footsies and things like that, so that if I
Okay.
can pay selective attention to the anti-air, I want to eliminate as much of the need to do the motion and reaction. I just want to press the button.
Right. So the whiffing the light kick thing is actually piquing my interest right now, where you whiff a
Yeah,
crouching light kick basically, and then that you
yeah,
would use that time to hold forward, so that way your character's not actually standing and eating the jump in, and instead they're
exactly.
busy in the animation for crouching and they're low. That is
Yeah,
really smart, and I never thought about that. That's super
that's from
cool.
Third Strike.
That's
That's
the third strike
that's
thing.
a yeah. So Kuroda, the most artistic player of any game in any era, whatever.
Yeah.
Kuroda does things that just you just want to rip your hair out. But he would do anti-air with light kick so that you can only hit him in the low frames of your jump. So he would always parry it. So you can't do like if you played
Oh.
Hugo, you didn't have to worry about parrying. You eliminate the timing that people have for hitting you in the face by just crouching and then parrying at the last minute. You could parry out of crouch. So I took that and say, all right, well, I'll crouch with a button that doesn't, that's quick, and I can cancel out of it and then do my DP.
Okay. And I remember seeing in Street Fighter 4, like you'd see Ryu with low forward or something, and then do DP,
Yeah.
and like you hear the conversation about low profiling and jump in, right? And I
Yeah.
guess that's the same principle, is that's what
Yeah.
low profiling is.
And a lot of Street Fighter games. So this is my first King of Fighters, but Street Fighter games don't do low profile any type of justice. Like King of Fighters, the hitboxes are so unique, and where low profile is a legitimate strategy. A lot of the games that I grew up playing, no, you're about to eat this jump in. You're not about to, whiff a low move to get out of this jump. You got to hold that.
So are we talking like you can whiff a low move and then go underneath them and then get frame advantage, or to get an anti-air?
You can anti-air sweep. So the concept of an anti-air sweep made no sense to me until I played King of Fighters. But the moves that characters wanted, some people have moves that reach far forward. Some people have moves that reach far downward. Some people have moves that are very active. But universally, you'll see certain characters that struggle with hitting crouching characters. And then a lot of the top tier, they have crouching light kicks that make them even shorter. So low profiling a move is a legitimate anti-air strategy in that game. And my brain could not comprehend that for, I'd say, the first month and some change. I said, why are people just crouching and I can't hit them? Because my move doesn't reach down enough to hit a crouching opponent.
That's fascinating. To kind of keep going and talking about other hitbox aspects here, movement is probably the other like big pillar of a hitbox advantage. And I was curious about what advantages you find in movement in hitbox, if any.
Yes. So charge motions. So getting when I played DiCaprio, the biggest cheat in the history of cheats, at least that I found, is that you could do a walking flash kick. Very easy. So it's like I don't know what the buffer, not what the window is where it holds your down to up input, but I would do a block string, and then I would be able to walk forward, and then as they're hitting a button, then I flash kick them, or psycho sting. So but all movement, like it just feels more fluid. Like you have immediate access to all your directions. There's no travel time for a joystick lever, anything like that. So yeah, it was. When I played Dragon Ball Fighters, you have to do instant air dash. So down, up, forward. I could get that instantly off the ground. On Hitbox, it just made a lot of everything is easier. It's better.
It's just outright better.
It's better. Yeah, there's no you can't argue that it's not better. you have no argument. Now, the one problem on that note that I will say with Hitbox is that mistakes that you make, those are your fault. So like if I'm spazzing out on a move and I don't get it, like a lot of times I can spaz a DP out on a joystick, and if I go look at my inputs, I go, man, what am I doing? But a DP comes out. If you do that on a Hitbox, it's probably not happening. So I've had numerous times where I want to get a DP out at the last minute, and it's not happening. So it gets you close to the limit of your reaction time. It's like, do you react properly when presented with a stimulus?
Yeah, there are like a lot of little things I think are harder on Hitbox than they are on stick. Like I think crosscut DPs are way harder on Hitbox.
Yeah, you need my cheat box, man. Down back is equal to when left and right is equal to block. Man, you can cross cut all day.
I'm gonna take a wait. When left and right is equal to block, as in the actual cheat box where you could block. Without.
Yeah.
So
cheat box it up. Well, I'm not on that right now. I'm on the real one. So you got to like hold down and then alternate the two motions.
Yeah, while we're on this topic here, what we're referring to when we talk about cheat box, there's this concept called SOCD, and I forget what it stands for.
Simultaneous opposing cardinal directions.
There we go. Simultaneous opposing cardinal directions, and that's up, down, left, and right. And left and right, depending on whether or not your apparatus will clean inputs, it'll either take the last input that was made or it will cancel it out. So if I hold left and I tap right, do I get neutral or do I get right? And that's the big question. And if your device SOCD cleans, then you'll get neutral. But if it doesn't clean, you'll be able to rapidly switch between left and right blocking very quickly. And that's kind of what Roch was mentioning. So
Yeah.
when people talk about SOCD and throw that acronym about, and people are talking about hitboxes, tournament legality, SOCD cleaning must be present on the device or within the game. And so you cannot Gaffro box is an example. I think when Fatty was playing on his keyboard all those years ago, that wasn't cleaning SOCD input, so he had extremely weird movement.
He had a brick board though, didn't he?
I thought it was a PS4 pad inside of a board, inside of a keyboard. Even then,
it was a brick boards.
Even
Frank
then,
was in the chat. He could probably shed light on that, but I'm pretty sure it was a brick board that he put in there.
Yeah, if it doesn't clean the inputs, like, and it's just most games. So Cross Tekken, I think my hitbox, if you did left and right at the same time, left took precedence. So I can only do the block and DP on P1. If I was P2 and mashing, then I was not getting the DP to come out. I would have to do it clean. And then I think after that, games started having SOCD cleaning. Yep. So I think if you did left and right past Street Fighter, whatever the last Street Fighter 4 was, I think it handled it for you. But I know Cross Tekken, I did not have a Brook board. I think it was I forget what kind of board I had in there. The WWE stick. It's probably the WWE stick board in there. And then left and right was left. So always it just was left. So I was blocking and DPing on P1 side, but P2 I was just down and down forward and not blocking. I was taking punches to the face.
And to kind of complete that explanation, like SOCD cleaning it happens for left and right, but up and down right now, up takes precedence over down. And so you can hold down on the hitbox and then tap the up button and your character will jump. So like there are, and I will say in Street Fighter V that was a strong debate. There's a player named Gaffro who created a thing called Gaffro Box, and Daigo started using it to get it banned because that was viewed as unfair.
Oh, that was his goal? That is hilarious.
Yeah, and then he ended up switching to Hitbox in general, and that's when I think that was in 2019, and that's when I switched. So I came over a lot later than you did, Roch, and so I'm still learning a lot of these little tricks that you have a decade of experience on.
I got all the little tricks.
But I am curious then, as somebody who's been a long time Hitbox user, it's in the global FGC conversation. Japan is all on top of it. Like in Street Fighter V top 8 this year, I think all 3 out of the 4 Japanese players were using Hitbox.
That's crazy. I didn't know it would caught on like that.
Yeah, and like I think Gachi-kun used a stick, but then everybody else was like pad and hitbox.
Pad is superior too. Like I remember the first instance of cheating was when NuckleDu was using the analog stick in tandem with the D-pad to get some blocking sonic booms and blocking flash kicks. So
that behavior that Roch mentioned about left and right and SOCD cleaning, the PS4 pad by default does not SOCD clean. And so that's where it gets really hairy about banning, because it's like, well, if you ban the hitbox because it can do that stuff, why can't you ban stock PS4 pad, which is a whole rabbit hole or Pandora's box to open, right?
And then the full schedule stick, I thought the full schedule stick should have been legal. I'm a go full schedule. Like he had up forward or whatever, and all of these things. It's like, let it rock. It's Wild Wild West.
Well, the full schedule stick is now it's canonized in the cross up. The Hitbox Arcade guys have released that cross up stick, right?
Yes. Now his took it a level further, because I think, don't get me lying, I think that those buttons were up in a direction. I think it was like two.
Yeah. Oh, a diagonal.
I think it was a diagonal.
Yeah, he had up forward for Viper Ball. Yeah, I remember that.
So he could Viper. So that one I might draw to, I don't know. Let it rock. Let it rock. People, Viper's fun to watch. You're not going to see that many Vipers. What could happen?
I guess. So then to kind of ask for the general just general, like Evo's coming up in 2023, right? What would
Mhm.
you do? Would you ban Hitbox or would you keep it around?
I'm an anarchist, so let it,
Just let it rock.
let it rock. Let it ride. It's not it is objectively better than stick. So if you're old school and you want to play on your old school apparatus, I respect you for it. But I'd like to see you do a walking flash kick. You know, I'm not gonna have a problem doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, so how about just from like a general, like where would your line be as far as like when something should be banned? Like the SOCD cleaning stuff, do you think that should have been banned? Or that lack of
Um,
SOCD cleaning?
I think that I think that the games should handle it, and then B, if left and right is one thing, if it's like left or right or whatever it is, you get an advantage on one side, you get a disadvantage on the other side. I don't know. I'd have to give it some thought. I would say if you can't do if you can't always block, so if it's not always blocking, let it ride. Um, so you'll have an advantage on one side, you will have a disadvantage on the other side. The game should take care of that, though. We know that this is here. What games are people playing nowadays? Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 5 takes care of it for you. You can't do left and right. I haven't seen it not taken care of since Cross Tekken. So I think SOCD should be, make people clean their inputs, leave it up to the game. I mean, how do people enforce it right now? Are we going like, oh, a tournament, your pool manager has to watch you hit left and right at the same time, or he's not going to let you play in your pool. I'm not seeing how the logistics play out in a major with thousands of people. So, that's not for me to call. But if I had to just drop the gavel, I'd say make people SOCD clean, and then, or not always block. If you're not always blocking, then you're fine in my book.
Yeah,
if you're not always blocking, then it's rocking.
Fair enough. All right, and Benny, do you have an opinion on whether or not Hitbox should be banned? Does it end in a cool rhyme like that?
I don't think it should be banned. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I know that there's gonna be purists, and I've seen them on Twitter too. If you want to play Third Strike, you got to play on stick. Like, they didn't put in like the undammed USB decoders and stuff like that, like Scott did at the gaming zone, where you could plug in whatever you want, right? So it's just like, I mean, if that's your stance and whatever, that's your venue, then fine, whatever. But the FGC to me has always been very inclusive, right? Like, it's welcoming to everybody, and like for me, and I look at it too, because it's just like, you have people that play on pad, and then even stick to them is intimidating, right? And like, even the initial investment in the stick, like that's a discussion all in itself. Like, do you get a cheap stick? Do you spend $200, and if you don't like it, resell it or whatever, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And like, if you think about Hitbox, like you guys brought up, we brought up Fatty with the keyboard, and like Roch said, like you played keyboard first person shooters. A lot of people, they're on computers, like that could be their first experience, is playing on an interface like that. I mean, if I wanted to play Street Fighter on keyboard right now, I could just bind keys, and I kind of have a makeshift hitbox, right? Like, I can learn that without putting in an investment into a stick, right?
Well, so I will say the keyboard doesn't SOCD clean either.
Yeah.
So
the game should do it.
The game should do it. The game should do
it.
Well,
the game does it. But I mean, you think about it, like the barrier to entry, right? Like that's something that we talked about too, in terms of like the high refresh monitors and stuff like that. And like, I want anybody that wants to play these games to play. So it's just like, whether you're playing on keyboard, whether you're playing on Guitar Hero controller, whether you're playing on a Hitbox or whatever, like if you want to come in and play the game, like who am I to stop you from playing? Like, for me, it's the community aspect. Let people play with what they want to play, as long as there's not any kind of like inherent cheating, using whatever they're using, turbo, that kind of stuff.
I guess it comes down to how you define that inherent cheating, though, right? And Rock's line is, if it makes you block and you actually have to block real, then that's the line, right?
Yeah.
And I was curious about, like, do you have a line, Benny, as far as like what would be like, no, that needs to go, like in Hitbox land?
I don't know, man, because it's like, you talk about that full schedule thing with like the macro or the wiring of the stick.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then it becomes like, how do you enforce that? Like, how would you know? Right? Because I think that was the main reason for that being banned, was because he was like binding like a direction and like a diagonal or something like that for dashes or something. So it's
Yeah.
like, if you're actually like going in the stick and like wiring certain inputs to a button like that, like that's going beyond like what's available in the game. That's going beyond, what's humanly possible, really, right?
Yeah.
But at the
And
same
I
time,
think
like,
that's actually
how can you
driven.
do that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, but how do you enforce that without, somebody actively watching or somebody like calling it out?
Yeah, I think it's written in the CPT rules that right now, if an arcade stick or a controller or whatever, as long as you cannot input the same input a command with two different buttons or two different options on your stick, then you're good to go. Which leaves the cross up in kind of a weird, murky territory. But like having an up forward button as well as an up forward on a stick would be not legal, right? But on the flip side, a PS4 pad, you can do up
Has
forward on the
both.
D-pad and up forward on the analog
Yeah.
stick. So it's not as easy as a fix, I guess. It's really hard to describe like how this. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Like a lot of what we've said here about like barrier of entry, like, hey, do you need a hitbox to actually play the fighting game? And on the one hand, we're saying no, we don't. You don't need that. The fighting game community is opening. People should be able to play on whatever they play on. But on the flip side, we're also saying, but it is objectively better. Hitbox is objectively better, and it's the best medium right now. And so, if you are a player that's like a new player in general, or somebody just wanting to get new into fighting games, like my fiance, for example, she's didn't grow up playing in arcades or anything, so she actually finds the hitbox more intuitive than a joystick does. So like it when you don't have that bias, like, or it's like, is that actually a true barrier of entry? If everyone is going to end up playing on hitbox because it's objectively better anyway, like what's the point of, like, is that, I don't know, I'm rambling, but basically, is that going to
No,
keep us?
it's true. I would say the cross up. So if you look at Tekken and you look at the inputs for Tekken, there are things you can do on a cross up that you
Yep.
cannot do on a stick. And if you're playing Mishimas, if you're playing anybody that needs a button and a directional input on the same frame, you're doing that on a hitbox or on a cross up better than you're doing it on a stick, objectively. Like there's no argument. So it's like I the cross up, since there's PS4 pads and PS4 pads have analog stick and a D-pad, and in theory someone could contort their hands to do something. Let the cross up rock. Let it go. Let it go. I want to see optimal Mishima play. I want to see a human that does, sidestepping from crouch, or like never misses an electric, and then always does the one frame moves that are supposed to be prohibitively difficult. They become child's play at that point.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah, I was gonna say. So my final question, just in terms of the hitbox, obviously, like John was saying, in terms of like Evo, right? Like the top eight, the three Japanese players were using hitbox. So I guess this is a question for both of you guys. Like, do you guys see the hitbox in general just being more prevalent as we move forward? Because one, like John was saying, like people, there's a lot of more. The newer generation hasn't grown up in the arcades, right? They don't have that. I play on. I want to play on stick. Like for me, like I played on pad. I played Street Fighter 4 on 360 pad until I entered the
Whew.
scene in '09, and like I was playing Honda, I was, using the analog stick or whatever. I was doing stuff, but then like when I entered the local scene in Alaska, and then like I saw people with sticks, and I was just like, I need to get one of those. Like, and I picked it up, and it was just naturally intuitive because I grew up in that era, right? So I guess, yeah. Do you guys think it'll be more prevalent as we move forward? Because like you have PC players, and then you have the newer generation that doesn't have that like affinity towards the sticks, like the arcade era people did. So I'd let John go first.
Okay. So I think this current wave of hitbox bandwagoners, as a hitbox bandwagoner myself of circa 2019, when that happened, when Daigo picked it up and put a bunch of spotlight on it, that resulted in a ton of people buying hitboxes and not everybody actually playing on those hitboxes because it ended up being too foreign. So I expect that same thing to happen here, where nowadays it's not just Daigo, it's like all the big influencers and Japanese players are all using it. And so a lot of people that I think are less experienced in fighting games are going to pick that up and expect to be better, realize that it's harder, and then either stick with it and not use it to its full advantage, and they're just using it because the pros are, or alternatively they'll go back to their medium of choice, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that's what happened, and then they have a hitbox collecting dust, or they sell it. And I remember that happening a lot in 2019, particularly around 2020, where we were all online for a little bit and everyone was like, hey, I'm selling my hitbox. Does anybody want to buy a hitbox? There's so many secondhand hitboxes on sale. So I think it's going to be a mix. I think there's going to be a lot of bandwagoners. I think there are going to be some people who legitimately switch, but it's not going to be the tidal wave that everyone's making out of being. But that's my answer.
You, Roch? What do you think? What do you think about that?
I would say it depends on the games that are popular, because if games, the reason Hitbox was able to take off is that Street Fighter 4 or the games that were prevalent at the time had so much input leniency that a Hitbox could take advantage of that. Now, no one was winning any tournaments playing Guilty Gear on a Hitbox because a lot of the moves, there was no input leniency. If you missed a half circle, there are plenty of matches that I've lost trying to do Eno Super, which is half circle back and then forward. I missed the half circle and I'm flailing with a hard slash and then I lose. So if the games have input systems that are advantageous to Hitbox, it'll gain in popularity. If all of a sudden games start requiring strict inputs and things are easier on stick, then it won't gain in popularity. But the games that are out now, there's a bunch of shortcuts that Hitbox can take advantage of, so it will continue to gain in popularity. I know for Tekken, I would think that as Tekken progresses and they have these motions that require frame perfect inputs and directions interacting with buttons, that Hitbox objectively is better. More people will pick it up. But these Arxis games, they don't have that type of. Actually, I'm not on Strive. I don't know what Strive does, but on the last Guilty Gear, I know I was missing all kinds of supers trying to do motions and missing a diagonal, and then I die.
They're still pretty strict in Strive from my impression. And also, like, weirdly enough, like I think modern games are moving away from DP motions. So like Dragon Ball had only quarter circles, right? And Street Fighter and in Marvel Infinite, I noticed that Dragon Punches were replaced with down punch for a lot of things.
Super cheap.
So it almost seems like it's going to get better for Hitbox players in the future.
Yeah. One of the Dragon Ball characters had a down DP. That's just cheap because you can't cross them up. Like, depending on what the motion looks like, what the animation looks like, you're not one of the cool parts about the interaction in fighting games is being able to cross someone's inputs up and them having to account for the timing in which you jump over their character. And you completely eliminate that if you make a down DP motion. So, the DPer doesn't have to think as much anymore. They're just.
The counter argument to it actually ties back to what we were talking about earlier on the show, though, is that in order to do down, you have to return to standing, right? So you don't get to do the low profile DP stuff we were talking about earlier. And so you might actually eat more jump ins in some ways, or it's a weaker version of a Dragon Punch in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it all depends. It's like the rhythm of the game, the timing of the game, how much time, how many frames you have to react to something. What's your wake up animation look like? Do you wake up standing for a frame guaranteed? That all factors into the conversation. But I know down DPs take a lot of the art out of out of the fighting game interaction. I am not a proponent of down DPs. Get them
let it rock. Let anybody play anything they want. But down DPs, I draw the line there. You gotta have that down forward, man.
Like UI Goku, when UI Goku came out, he was the best character. And then also, you can't cross them up. So it's like, I got this set up. It's like, nah, son.
You can't cross up anybody in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Well, some of them you could make their DPs whiff. Like if you super jump or jump at them on wake up, their DP goes under you, and then you punish for a hefty combo. But UI Goku's DP hits on both sides, and the motion is direct. It doesn't matter what direction you're going. You're hitting down.
Man,
so
right?
Like, come on, and you're the best character in the game. Come on.
If there's anything that I've learned about our podcast together here, is that Roch likes player-to-player interaction. He hates lab work. He loves jumping and then changing his jump arc. He likes cross-ups to blow up DPs, and he likes big burst damage. And that lines up with Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I understand why you like Street Fighter Cross Tekken now.
Oh, man. And I played a character that could stab himself and stab you for more damage. I could kill people in one touch.
Yep, that's the burst.
I guess I never thought about it in terms of like the games, because I guess one of the big games coming out is that Project L game. So I mean, in terms of like how inputs and how that's going to play out, that has the potential to be a huge game just because of like League of Legends and just the public persona, right? Like Street Fighter, despite how popular it is still kind of niche, right? But League of Legends is like in the current global aspect, and it's in people's minds, so like that could be a huge game. And so I never thought about it in terms of like the type of game or what game would use it or what would have an advantage using the hitbox.
Even think about it, if you're a game designer, right, and you're on Project L and working on Project L, and you're like, okay, so who's my audience? Is it the fighting game community? Probably not. It's actually probably my League of Legends player base, right? Mm-hmm. And what do League of Legends players use? Mouse and keyboard. So do I design my fighting game around keyboard? That's a legitimate question. You might want to do that because that's where your audience is.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And another thing that the Smash, they got a Smash box too. So even the Smash games have a hitbox variant, and they have techniques that are Smash box exclusive.
Yep. Yeah. And I'd love to talk more about Smashbox, but unfortunately I think time has flown while we were having so much fun. And I think it's time for us to close out the show. But Roch, I hope you come back and we can keep talking about this stuff, man. This is great.
I'll get my webcam working next time, so you don't have to look at my laptop.
Technical issues aside, I mean, both me and you. I mean, was there anything that you wanted to shout out in particular, or anything you wanted to promote?
Shout outs to the Arizona fighting game community. I haven't seen a lot of you guys for a minute. I miss all of you. Let's get back to doing offline things and playing games, and especially them old man games. Come see me in all them old man games. And then, that's, nothing to plug. Plug you guys. Shout outs to this podcast.
Oh, thanks, Roch.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we appreciate having you on. So do you guys like knowing who the guest is next week, or should I keep that a surprise?
I want to know.
All right. Well, just in general, I mean, you can find us live typically on Thursdays. Sometimes that may vary depending on what's going on, but you can find us when we go live at twitch.tv/Spiral Series. That's followed up on YouTube as a VOD on youtube.com/Spiral Series. And if you just listen on audio, it's on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under Absolute Guard. And then for next week, we're going to have Frank AZHP. That's going to be our guest next week. I've got some things that I wanted to pick his brain about because he's been heavily involved with our scene, especially when I was coming into the scene. He was one of the TOs and somebody that's just been generally welcoming to me and my family. And I've always tried to support events that he's been at. But yeah, he's been involved in. If you've been to Phoenix Comic Con in the past, a lot of the cons around here, he was running the game rooms there. So you might have may not have met him personally, but you probably went in there and were just like, hey, let me try some stuff out. And, he was doing stuff like that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to talk with him. I was running tournaments around the time when he was running tournaments really regularly, and we worked closely together, and it'll be nice to reunite after all these years. Yeah. Just like reuniting with Roch.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man. Long time. Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while, so it's good to see people.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I got next.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Peace.